Kevin Canessa coming to you from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com on this, the 8th day of November in the year 2021. Sure hope you're enjoying your Monday, no matter where it is you are in the country. Here in the Northeast, a little bit chilly today, but it was nice most of the day. Just hard to get used to the change in time. I don't know about you, but every year for the first couple of days, I always find it tough. I was up at 4:30 this morning, thinking it was 5:30. It was 4:30, but my body's, I guess, so used to getting up at that time on Monday mornings that I was just couldn't go back. So hope you're all enjoying your day much better than I did with this time change. But as you do every Monday night, you let me into your home so that I can go over the current week's newspaper. And there's some things that we need to talk about, folks. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you to see here, okay? Because this front page this week is a little bit different than most front pages, but I want to get this story so that you can see it very clearly. Belleville School Trustee Erica Jaco, convicted of DWI, lied on the stand. So some of you may be wondering what the whole lie is about, and I'm going to get into that. But first, this all stems from an October 21st, 2020 arrest. Excuse me. All of a sudden, I have like cotton throat here. But she was arrested and charged with drunken driving on the 21st of October in 2020. And she pleaded not guilty, went to trial, and came up with this whole thing about how, as a political person that she is, she's an elected official on the Board of Education in Belleville, there was this vast conspiracy against her and that she was not actually driving drunk. And she came up with this story about that night she was out and about and passing out signs to some of her supporters for a couple of hours. And after every person she met, she put hand sanitizer on her hands. And when the police saw her pulled over and slumped over the wheel, the scent they smelled wasn't alcohol, but it was instead an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Okay? This, of course, doesn't account for the slurred speech and the arrogance and the cursing and all the other things that we saw in the video, and you can see that video right now at theobserver.com if you wish. But here's the other thing, okay? She said that she was upset because her son decided he was going to drop out of a university and begin working for the United Parcel Service on a full-time basis, and she said that it led to a panic attack, and that's why she pulled the car over in front of Michael's Roscommon house in Belleville, and that she wasn't, in fact, drinking. But this is where it all gets a little bit hairy. I got the audio of the trial and listened to all 4.5 hours of the audio. And in the course of the video, she's asked some questions. And she decided to say that while she wasn't drunk, there was this conspiracy. And it bothered her because within 6 hours of her arrest, the story was on the front page of The Observer and other newspapers. And within 6 hours of her arrest, we had a video up of her arrest from the body-worn cameras. From the police cruisers. So listen to her statement real quick. The screen's going to go black because this is a video, but it's audio only. This is what she said on the stand. It's about a minute long, but just give it a quick listen. Here it is.
So that's why I originally, when they put the handcuffs on me, I didn't resist anything, but I kept questioning. I'm like, why are you doing this? Because of the fact that I was attacked completely during my campaign, political attacks galore. So even as a result of this, in the 6 hours within the arrest of me being released, it was already in NJ.com, cover of Observer, Nutley Post. I mean, the Observer is not even my county. So within 6 hours of me being released, that's already out. There's a YouTube the same day.
She sounded pretty confident in her words, but they were lies. From the beginning of her statement to the end, she did nothing but lie, and I'm going to tell you why. First thing she said, it was on the front page of Observer. The Observer, I think, is what she meant. She was arrested on Wednesday, the 21st day of October in 2020. That edition of The Observer was printed 2 days earlier on the 19th. So it was not possible for that to be on the front page of The Observer within 6 hours of her arrest. In fact, it appeared on the front page of The Observer on the 4th day of November, exactly 2 weeks after the incident took place. She also said that the video that she was mentioning, which was from the dash cam of the police cruiser, appeared on our page on YouTube that day. The video is dated October 28th, 2020, exactly 1 week after she was arrested. So while she took the stand and was going on and on about how there were these vast conspiracies of political nature against her, and then try to blame police officers for this and us for this vast conspiracy that we had by having the audacity to cover her when the Observer is not her county, that's another thing. That's another thing. Clearly, she doesn't know. She's an elected official, and she doesn't know that the Observer's been covering Belleville for at least 20 years and likely longer. We couldn't come up with the actual date because it's been so long, and our archives got destroyed by Hurricane Sandy. So we were able to confirm at least in 1999 the Observer was covering Belleville, and we have ever since. We have a very good working relationship with the mayor, Michael Millum. And we have covered Belleville since I started, too, back in 2006 here. So where she gets that the Observer isn't even my county, quote-unquote, is absurd. At least 20 years, more than likely 30 to 40. And she outright told a lie, a few lies, that it was posted on our front page the day she got arrested. No. 2 weeks after. And the YouTube video was published within 6 hours of her being released. No. The actual number of hours is 168, exactly a week later was that published. So I don't know whether the Judge Paparazzo or the public defender or the prosecutor in Verona, keep in mind the case was moved to Verona because of they didn't want to have any type of improprieties. She's an elected official. So they moved it to Verona. I don't know whether the judge, I don't know whether the prosecutor or her public defender knew that she was telling these blatant lies on the stand, but she was. And that's perjury, folks. Perjury is a very serious offense. And this is an elected official, a woman who was voted to represent the town for the Board of Education. She's in charge of a budget that's tens of millions of dollars each year. She makes decisions based on the well-being of children. And her behavior was so abhorrent, it was so bad that they wouldn't accept it were it from a student. If a student behaved the way she did, watch the video on theobserver.com the night she was arrested. And she was effing this and effing that. And she was the one who paid the salaries of the Belleville police officers. And she knew Vinny. And she was better than they were. I don't know how those cops remained calm, and the judge even said so. So not only was her behavior out of control, not only did she tell lies, but this whole thing is concocted. I don't care what anybody said. Nobody had an agenda. She tried to say we did, and one of the Kearney police officers who was on scene because he was having a drink inside Michael's, Roscommon, wanted to get her. You didn't even know who she was. I mean, come on. And then we got into cahoots with each other? No, Erica, no. That's not what happened. So This is one of, if not the most despicable examples of corrupt public service I've seen in 29 years of being a journalist. I have never been dragged into the mud by a politician falsely like this. But the good thing is that the YouTube pages, the website, and the printed edition of the Observer can't lie because they're official documents that have dates on them. We know them. Everybody logically knows this, except for Erica Jacko and her attorney, a public defender. And that's another question. What is a public official doing with a public defender? I don't understand. I mean, you got to be kidding me. There's a big conflict there. There's no reason why an elected official should need a public defender. And if she's using one, you have to ask yourself this question: why? Why? So that's where this story is. Let it be clear that there was no conspiracy with the Observer and the officer from Kearney. I have refrained from saying his name because I think he's been through enough. I don't want to have to say his name. I didn't bring in Vinny's last name either, but Erica Jacko, a member of the Belleville Board of Education, found guilty of drunken driving. 15 months she'll have to blow into one of those machines that let the car know she hasn't been drinking. And in the editorial section this week, we call for her resignation, and that's exactly what she must do: resign. She has no business being on that Board of Education. Not the way she behaved, not the way she spoke to the police officers, not the way she perjured herself on the witness stand, and in general. She's a terrible representation of the Township of Belleville. She should not be there. And to the other members of the Board of Education of Belleville, you must call for her to resign as well, because if you don't, you are as complicit as she is in this abhorrent situation. She's got to go, and she's got to go tonight. I doubt it's going to happen, though. All right, let's move on to the rest of this week's edition of The Observer. There's enough about that situation, but also on the front page this week, this is a sad story for the seniors at Nutley High School. The boys' football team and the girls' soccer team had to forfeit their state tournament games over the weekend because so many kids tested positive for COVID. Imagine being a senior and you get to your senior year and you finally get into a state playoff game for those two teams and they have to forfeit because of a stupid disease. Well, that's exactly what happened, and Jim Haig has the story, and it's just horrifying that it's heartbreaking that those poor kids had to experience that. It goes down as a loss. You can't play if there's X amount of players who have tested positive, and I guess they hit the magic number for the soccer team, for the girls, and the football team. Such a terrible way, especially for that football team that has been through so much this year with the loss of Coach Steve DiGregorio and just the whole pandemic in general. Such a horrible way to end a 6-3 season. So we feel for them. And Jim did a great job of encapsulating how those kids feel and the coaches feel as their season comes to an abrupt and unpredictable ending, unfortunately. And I think, from what I understand, I just kind of breezed over the story that it may have been all contact traced back to a Halloween party. What a shame. As we move inside to this week's edition of The Observer, our own Joanne Barton went to see Shaka Khan at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center over the weekend. It was a wonderful concert, and she's going to be working with them. And we're going to have some tickets for you, and we'll let you know how to go about that very, very soon, where you can win some tickets to a comedy festival at NJPAC the day after Thanksgiving, the Friday after Thanksgiving. And she says the concert was great. Shaka Khan was in great spirits and great form, and she sang some of her incredible hits, including I Feel For You and a few others. And, of course, I'm blanking on them, but I love Shaka Khan, too. Who doesn't like Shaka Khan? Shaka Khan. So check that out on page number 2. Lisa and I went to Curiosity by Intrinsic last Wednesday in Kearney. We were supposed to meet Wani Wong. She wasn't there, unfortunately, but it kind of worked out to our benefit. So we just went in and had a relaxing late lunch, early dinner on Tuesday of last week. We didn't tell anybody who we were or why we were there. We were really there to kind of find out about the place, test the food, and write a review, and that's what I did. But we didn't tell them who we were, where we were from, and despite that, they treated us royally. They were wonderful, from the waiter to the hostess to the cooking staff. It was a great experience, and this is, Lisa is cultured. I'm not, okay, and there's a lot of food on that menu that I looked at, and I'm like, never, nope, never, not gonna try it, not gonna do it. But I wound up having a chicken and curry, which was wonderful. And then Lisa ordered this tofu teriyaki, and it was so good. And that's the first time I've had any kind of tofu. I was like, not going to eat that rubber. And it just was tremendous. And she had a grilled eel, okay? And it looked fantastic. And so combine all that with this great atmosphere. It was like, I said to her, it's like, I feel like I'm in a village all of a sudden because it was so out of place. Not a typical Carney restaurant, but the menu is generally Japanese fusion. It was tremendous. We had such a great time just shooting the breeze, relaxing after a long day at work, and the food was phenomenal. It's also a cafe, too, so Lisa started off with a cappuccino, which was able to warm up her hands, which is good, and it was very tasty. I had water, which they put in a mason jar. Lisa tells me that that's a way that a lot of restaurants serve beverages now in mason jars, but it was so cool. I really just had a wonderful time. Wani and her staff do a tremendous job. If you haven't tried it yet, you gotta. And it's on Midland Avenue between Elm and Devon. I'm going to tell you, the menu is limited, but it's phenomenal, and it is very reasonably priced. You probably spend more if you go to Top's Diner or any kind of a small diner or something like that. It is just a phenomenal experience. I hope you'll give it a shot, too, if you haven't yet. I know a lot of people have, but if you haven't had a chance, I'm telling you, folks, this place is tremendous. Lisa told me I was going to love it. She's ordered from there before. I wasn't so sold on it. I left there a believer, waiting to go back. That's how good it was. Next story on the inside. I'm going to kind of try to, I've been going on. We're already 17 minutes past the hour. But Faith Kennedy is the first Girl Scout in Kearney in the last quarter century to win the Gold Award. It's like the girls' equivalent of the Boy Scout Eagle Project Award. And she did an amazing project. Her mom and dad, Ed and Mary Beth Kennedy. I've known Mary Beth for a long time. Wonderful family and a great job by Faith. She did a phenomenal job. And our dear friend Melanie Ryan wrote the story for us. First time in our history that Melanie has contributed a story, though she contributes on a daily basis. So thank you, Melanie, for the story and the tremendous job. And guess who else won earned a gold award in her youth? None other than Melanie Ryan. I'm not sure how long ago it was, though. Probably a little more than 25 years ago. Or maybe not, Melanie. I don't know. I don't want to, do anything crazy or say anything crazy because I know you're going to be mad at me because I'm making fun of you being old. We had 2 police blotters this week, one from the North Arlington Police Department, the other from Kearney PD. The Kearney entry, the lead Kearney entry is just this kid was put on home confinement. He was told he had to stay in the house. He left the house and committed more crimes and then got sentenced again, or not sentenced, or whatever they call it, remanded on more house arrest with the GPS. I don't think that's working. It didn't work. He keeps going out and doing whatever the hell he wants. But what a shame, because there's no youth house in Hudson County anymore. There's an intake officer that did that. So I don't want you to think I'm being critical of the Kearney PD. I'm not. It's these intake officers who don't know. It's a shame. So the kid committed crimes after he was put on home confinement. So check that out. As we do every single week, 2 pages of classifieds. If you need a place to rent, a job, whatever it is, you will find it in this week's edition of The Observer. So look for it tomorrow. And that's going to do it. I've been through a lot today. I appreciate you all bearing with me and sticking with us. If you have any questions about anything we discussed in the earlier segment, you let us know about that, and I will do my best to answer them. You can put the questions in the comments here or send an email, to kc@theobserver.com. That's the letters kc@theobserver.com, and I will answer to the best of my ability, especially when it comes to the JACO situation, but that's what it was, okay? From the newsroom of The Observer and theobserver.com, it's Kevin Canessa signing off for now, and I am looking forward to seeing you back here again very, very soon. Good night, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.